Long before that night I had heard whispers. They weren't the spooky campfire kind, but casual mutterings, word-of-mouth warnings that slipped between breaks and locker room gossip. I started working at the Burger King on Marsh Lane during my junior year of high school, mostly to save for college and get away from the chaos at home. My dad left 2 summers ago, and Mom worked nights at a warehouse. We barely crossed paths. The job gave me structure and, more importantly, silence. My name's Aubrey Lawson. I never liked attention, never liked being involved in drama. I was quiet, good with routines, and never questioned authority, which is probably why I stayed longer than most. In the 6 months I worked there, I saw more resignations than I could count. Managers rotated like clockwork, employees left mid-shift, and yet, I stayed. I told myself it was normal, just a rough area, just bad luck. But deep down, I knew something was off. It started with the freezer, or maybe it ended there. I'm still not sure. We were warned not to go near it. At first, they taped a regular, out-of-order sign. Then came the duct tape. Then a handwritten warning that simply read, "Do not enter. Leak hazard." It was taped on sloppily like an afterthought, but no one questioned it. That's the thing about fear. It doesn't always show up loud and dramatic. Sometimes it just sits in the air like static. It was a Saturday. Heavy rain since 8 p.m. Just me, Maya, and Caleb. Caleb was technically our floor manager, though most nights he spent more time vaping in his car than managing anything. Maya was a part-time nursing student with tired eyes and a tired soul. That night was her last shift. She was done with the place. It was almost 11:30 when I saw them. 2 women standing under the drive-through sign. They weren't moving. No car, no umbrella. Just standing there in the rain, soaked to the bone. One had her head tilted upward like she was counting raindrops. The other stared directly at the front doors. "You see them?" I asked quietly. Maya followed my gaze. "We're closed, right?" "No, not until midnight." We watched as they entered. No sound, no water trailing behind them. Just silence and wet footsteps that didn't echo. I stepped forward, my voice doing what protocol demanded. "Hi, welcome in. Just a heads up, kitchen's only doing drive-through orders right now." No response. The taller one walked to the corner booth near the drink machine and sat. The other lingered, watching the back hallway, the hallway that led to the freezer. "Ma'am, that area's off limits," I said. Still nothing. No blink, no nod. Then she moved. She walked straight toward it, like she belonged there, like the tape didn't exist. The door, sealed for weeks, opened under her hand. She stepped inside and vanished. I ran after her, but by the time I reached the doorway, it was dark. The smell hit me first, rusty, sour, like meat left out too long. She was gone. Just gone. Caleb came back in right after. "What now?" he groaned. "There were 2 women," I said, breath catching. "One of them walked into the freezer." Maya backed me up. She didn't even touch the tape, just went in. It smelled like something rotting. Caleb raised an eyebrow. "What 2 women?" We turned to point. The booth was empty, and that was only the beginning. The 3 of us hovered near the counter, confused and visibly shaken. Maya looked pale. Caleb rolled his eyes, clearly thinking we were overreacting. He walked briskly to the manager's computer and pulled up the security feed. "Let's see this mystery guest," he said. He pulled up the timestamp. 11:28 p.m. Door opens. Nothing. Just me and Maya standing at the counter, reacting to no one. Caleb frowned. "See? Nobody came in. Maybe y'all need to clock out early." I leaned in. No, I saw them. One looked at me." Maya whispered, "What's back there, Caleb? What happened in that freezer?" He was silent for a moment, then finally said, "A homeless guy OD'd back there last summer. Broke in after hours. They found him 2 days later. Cops came, but it got swept under the rug. Some people said there were signs someone else was in there with him, but the security footage got erased." My stomach dropped, and management just covered it up? Corporate told us to tape it off and forget it. We should have left right then. But we didn't. We stayed and cleaned. Maya and I wiped down the front area. Caleb disappeared into the office. But while sanitizing the touchscreen kiosk, I saw it. Smears of ketchup. Not spilled, not accidental. Written, "You locked me in." I screamed. Maya dropped an entire bin of fryer tools. The crash brought Caleb back, annoyed, until he saw the words. We rushed to the hallway. The freezer door was wide open. Inside, nothing. Except a soaked Burger King hat, stained with something dark, thick. We locked the door, taped it again, called the regional manager, who told us flatly, "Do not call the cops, just lock up and go home." I barely remember driving home. My hands were shaking the whole time. I didn't even shower. I just laid in bed with the lights on. At 2:12 a.m. my phone buzzed. No name, no contact, just one message. "Still cold in here." I quit the next morning. Maya too. Caleb said he'd hold things down until corporate figured it out. A week later, he didn't show up for his shift. They found his car in the lot, door open, engine off. No sign of him. Burger King boarded up the hallway, placed a new drink station to cover the space, pretended the freezer never existed. But I remember the woman staring at the freezer like it held a piece of her. And maybe it did. Maybe she wasn't haunting the place. Maybe she was trapped in it. Sometimes we ignore what doesn't make sense. We tape it shut. We put signs on it. We tell ourselves it's not our business. But silence can be just as dangerous as ghosts. Never ignore the places where people have suffered. The past doesn't stay buried. It waits for someone to notice. There are places you think you've forgotten until the smell hits you. Not a bad smell, just something specific. Char-grilled meat, fryer oil, the faint sweetness of a soda machine. That's what got me when I stepped inside that Burger King on South Atlantic Boulevard. The second I walked in, it was like my 11-year-old self punched through time and yanked me backward. Summer of 2005. I was spending the week with my Uncle Victor and cousin Evan in Monterey Park. My mom needed a break, and Uncle Vic, always the distracted type, said he didn't mind. I'd done the trip every July since I was 6, but that year was different. Uncle Vic was more stressed than usual, working 2 jobs, barely sleeping, always arguing with someone on the phone. Evan was 13, moody and distant, sneaking out to smoke with his older friends. I felt like a third wheel in my own vacation. The one thing we still did together was walk to the Burger King down the block. It was our quiet routine. We'd sit in the same booth, split Whopper Juniors and fries, drink Coke through cracked lids. It was the one place we didn't have to talk much. Behind that Burger King was a building I'd never seen anywhere else. 2 stories, faded metal siding, windows so filthy you couldn't tell if they were boarded or just coated in grime. The letters on the side were peeling, unreadable. Evan said the neighborhood kids called it the cold box. No one knew what it had been. It had no activity, no lights, no sounds. It just sat there, looming behind the drive-thru like it had nowhere else to go. One night, right before sunset, we were eating when I looked up and saw it. A figure. 2nd floor. Window directly across from our booth. It was facing sideways. Didn't move. At first, I thought it was a mannequin, maybe some prank, until another shape appeared behind it. Taller, thinner, with limbs that bent like they'd never learned how to work properly. This one turned toward us. Its face wasn't right. It was like someone melted a Halloween mask in the microwave, sagging, with 2 deep red holes where eyes should have been. Evan leaned over and whispered, "Do you see that?" I nodded slowly. The lights above our booth flickered. Just once. We didn't speak again until we got back to the house. I asked Uncle Vic what the building was. "Old cold storage," he said, not looking up from the paper. "Shut down after a fire. Some workers got trapped. Ugly thing. Place has been sealed for years." He said it like he didn't want to know more. Like knowing more made things worse. That night I lay awake watching the ceiling fan spin, The image of that melted face stuck in my head. Not angry, not sad, just watching. I never forgot that summer. But I never talked about it either. Until 17 years later, when I found myself back in Monterey Park. Not by choice. Work had sent me. Logistics job. Warehouse audit. When I saw the street name on the GPS, I froze. South Atlantic Boulevard. The Burger King was still there. And I had to know. The place looked newer, but the layout was the same. The red plastic booths had been replaced with beige vinyl ones. The drink machine now had touch screens, but it still smelled like grease and bread, still had that hum from the overhead lights. I ordered a small Coke and slid into the same booth, muscle memory guiding me. Out the window, I expected to see the cold box. Gone. In its place was a wide white storage unit and a concrete loading dock. Clean, bright, boring. I sat in silence for a while. Then an elderly janitor pushing a mop bucket passed by. He had those slow, careful movements of someone who'd been doing the same job forever. "You been here before?" he asked out of nowhere. I nodded. "Yeah, long time ago." He didn't stop mopping. "You look like you saw something you thought was gone." "There used to be a building out back, 2 stories, looked abandoned." He stopped. "No, sir, just trash bins and a storage unit back there. Been that way as long as I remember." "But there was something," I said, leaning forward. "It had windows. We used to see things. Movement." He gave me a look. Not skeptical, tired. "You ever lose power when no one else does? Feel a chill for no reason?" I stared at him. "Sometimes." "Then don't go looking for what left," he said. "That place didn't like being watched." He walked away, wheels squeaking against tile. I left my Coke half full and walked out. Didn't look back. Couldn't. That night, in my hotel, the TV turned on by itself at 2:17 a.m. No volume, just static. Then black. Then 2 red dots appeared on the screen, upper right corner. Not bright, just there. I unplugged the TV. The screen stayed on for 2 more seconds. In the glass reflection next to it, I swear I saw 2 figures. One tall, one melted. I filed for a transfer the next morning, packed everything in my rental and drove until I hit Arizona. I didn't explain anything to HR, but I did call Evan. He picked up like he'd been expecting me. "I was wondering when you'd remember," he said. "You remember that night?" "Every day." "What were they?" He paused. "I think they were what's left when nobody cares. When suffering goes ignored, they rot and they wait. And when you see them, they know you did." The line went dead. I didn't call back. I still dream about them sometimes. The tall one, the melted one. Watching from that window, like I owed them something. I don't eat at Burger King anymore, and I never sit with my back to windows. We forget that buildings remember, that places store pain the way bodies do, and when we ignore it long enough it takes form. Some things disappear when ignored, but not because they're gone, because they're waiting. Most people will tell you that road trips are good for the soul, that driving through open highways and breathing in the shifting scenery does something to your spirit, clears it out, heals it. At least, that's what my best friend Tyler believed. Me? I always thought that kind of silence gives you too much space to think. In the summer of 2022, I let him talk me into it. A cross-country trip from Phoenix to Kansas City. Just the 2 of us, a busted-up Honda Civic, a few playlists, and some half-baked plan to rediscover whatever we'd lost since college. I was 26. Tyler was 27. He was still the golden retriever type, loud, bright, full of dumb ideas and good timing. I was quieter, more anxious, the kind of guy who checks the rear view twice and locks the door 3 times before sleeping. We hit Roswell just past 9 at night. We'd been driving for 6 hours straight. I was hungry, dehydrated, my stomach cramping from all the vending machine junk. I'd had a string of panic attacks a couple years ago, and ever since then, late nights like this, they hit different. There's a certain flavor of dread that comes with fluorescent lights and desert wind after dark. "Pull off at the next real food stop," I told Tyler, rubbing my temples. "You're soft, man," he said with a grin. "We're surviving off beef sticks and vibes. Pull off, or I'm throwing up in your cup holder." We exited at 89, the kind of roadside stop that looks like time forgot it. A dead bowling alley, a darkened motel with a flickering vacancy sign, and one sad little Burger King glowing red and yellow, like it had no business still being open. Tyler peeled off toward a sketchy gas station across the street, and I crossed the lot toward the BK alone. Inside, it was practically empty. One kid behind the register, earbuds in, watching some show on his cracked phone screen. A janitor mopping lazily by the soda machine. The air smelled like fryer oil and mop water. I ordered a Whopper and a Coke, then sat in the middle booth. Not by the windows. Not too far from the exit either. That's when I noticed the guy. He was just standing there, near the hallway that led to the restrooms, not going in, not coming out. Just standing. Lean, tall, pale. Wearing a camo jacket over a gray hoodie, hood up. The kind of layered clothing that made no sense in the warm desert heat. His head was tilted down like he was staring at the floor. I told myself he was homeless, or tired, maybe high, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't waiting for anything. He was just placed there, like a prop, like part of the scene. I looked down at my tray, forced myself to eat, fast. My stomach twisted with every bite. I didn't look back until I got up to toss my trash. He had moved. Now he was near the entrance, still not looking at me, still not moving. Just there. I gave him a polite nod, something between a gesture and an apology, and walked out into the night. The wind had picked up, that dry desert wind that kicks dust across your shoes and makes the parking lot feel even more deserted. Tyler's Civic was already rolling up. He honked once. As I walked to the car, I heard the door open behind me. I glanced back. The man had followed me out. Not walking, not talking, just standing to the side now, arms limp, head low. I didn't say a word, just opened the door and got in. Tyler raised his eyebrows. "That dude's weird," he said. "Yeah," I muttered. He was inside too. We pulled out, turned back onto the road. I didn't even feel hungry anymore. 3 minutes later, I glanced at the side mirror. There were headlights, one car, a dark sedan. No lights at first, then they clicked on. Same lane, same speed, same distance. "Tyler." I see him. He didn't say it like a joke. No more golden retriever energy, just flat. Watching. The car didn't tailgate, didn't try to pass, just followed. 5 minutes, 10. "Get off," I said. "See if he follows." We took the exit toward Highway 70. So did he. Tyler sped up, slowed down, changed lanes, took a weird detour around a closed gas station, came back out, still there. I was sweating now, heart in my throat. I kept checking my phone, barely one bar, no cops, no other traffic, just us in the sedan, no closer, no farther, just there. Finally, after what felt like forever, the sedan flicked its turn signal. It turned left onto a gravel road that led into a black stretch of desert. No lights, no buildings, just gone. We didn't say anything for a long time, just drove. When we finally stopped at a motel 2 towns over, I made Tyler park in front of our door. I checked the locks twice, moved a chair under the doorknob, didn't sleep until the sun came up. He never made a sound, never approached. But I never forgot him. The man from exit 89, the way he stood like he wasn't waiting, like he was timing something. And that car, silent, steady, perfect in distance, like they knew how close was too close. I've done a few road trips since then. I still love the open sky, the playlists, the greasy food, but I never eat alone at night anymore. Not on highways, not off exits. And when I pass a Burger King glowing on some empty stretch of road, I look twice, because someone might be standing by the restrooms or the door, waiting. Just waiting. Some threats don't come loud or fast. Some follow you at the speed of silence. Listen to your fear, even when it sounds unreasonable. Not every danger chases you. Some just make sure you never forget they were there. You don't forget a look like that. The first time someone stares at you, not with interest or recognition, but with that strange, almost deliberate emptiness, like you're not a person to them, just an idea. I was 24 and not exactly thriving. I'd moved back in with my dad in Parker, Colorado after a failed lease and an even more failed relationship in Denver. I needed work, so I took the cashier job at a Burger King on South Parker Road. It wasn't the worst job I'd had, but it was lonely. Long nights, barely any customers after 9, and a dining room that echoed with the buzz of dying fluorescent lights. Danny Alvarez, the fry cook, was the only reason I stayed sane. She was 2 years older, with thick black curls tied up under a Burger King visor and a sharp sense of humor that could cut through silence like a knife. We'd joke around, play music from her Bluetooth speaker during slow hours, and trash talk the playlist they forced us to play over the lobby speakers. That night in February started like any other. Cold, dead quiet. I remember the way the wind pushed against the front doors like it was testing our patience. It was just the two of us again. No manager, no cleaner, no customers since about 8:40 p.m. I was wiping down the counters when I saw him. Just standing in front of the restaurant, maybe 10 feet away, not moving, not pacing. Just there. His coat was this mossy green parka thick with dust or salt stains torn at the elbow. His face was partially hidden under matted black and gray hair and a tangled beard, but I could see his eyes through the window. And I swear to you, they were dead. Not angry, not curious, just hollow. I tried to pretend I didn't see him. Rearranged lids at the drink station. Wiped the napkin holder 3 times. But he wouldn't stop staring. Eventually, I slipped into the back and called out to Danny. There's some guy outside, he's just standing there, like he's waiting for something. She peeked out from the fryer station, wiping her hands on a towel. Homeless, probably, she muttered. Might be high. People from the laundromat cut through here sometimes. I nodded, half wishing that was all it was. But when we both peeked out the drive-through window to check again, he was gone. Just like that. Okay. Now that's creepier than him being there, Danny said, narrowing her eyes. I forced a laugh, trying to shake it off, but something about it got under my skin. We finished cleaning up, mopped, restocked cups, ran closing checks. But I kept glancing at the front windows like he might show up again. He didn't. At least not yet. I tried not to think about him the next night. I told myself people loiter outside restaurants all the time, but the way he'd vanished when we weren't looking, like a whisper in the dark, clung to me. I couldn't shake it. It was the following Wednesday, exactly a week later, that he came back. This time, I was sweeping under the booths around 11:15 p.m. when I saw a shadow shift outside the windows. My eyes locked onto the glass. It was him. Same parka, same dead eyes. Standing even closer now, right outside the dining room. He wasn't looking at the menu board or checking a phone. He was watching me, his hands buried in his coat pockets, his head slightly tilted like he was trying to figure something out. I backed away slowly, heart pounding, and called for Danny. He's back, I whispered. Danny came over, towel still in hand, eyes sharp. She moved fast, walking right up to the glass but keeping just out of direct line. Okay, no, she said, looking at me. This guy's not just a rando. He's watching you. That's calculated. She locked the front doors while I hovered near the phone. But by the time we looked again, gone. We checked every corner of the lot from the drive-through window. Empty. Danny wasn't the type to scare easily, but even she didn't like it. If he shows up again, we're calling the cops, she said. I don't care if he's just standing there. After that, we stayed near each other the rest of the shift. I didn't even go to the bathroom alone. The lights in the lot flickered every now and then. The wind pushed trash across the empty drive-through lane. And in my mind, I kept seeing his eyes, like he wasn't looking at me, like he was choosing me. Closing time came. I was supposed to take the trash out to the back dumpster, something I hated doing on good nights. The area behind the restaurant was dimly lit, with only one buzzing light over the back door and a cracked camera pointing toward the alley. Danny saw me hesitating. "I'll do it," she said, grabbing the bag. "You owe me a donut run, though." She always tried to make things lighter. I smiled and nodded, but I stayed by the back door, counting down the register at the little office desk. 5 minutes passed, then 10. "Danny?" I called out. Nothing. I stepped outside, scanning the lot. That's when I saw her, sprinting from the edge of the lot, eyes wide with panic. "Go inside! Lock the door!" I didn't question her. I slammed the metal door shut and twisted the bolt. Seconds later, I saw him. The man. From the parking lot. This time he was walking calmly from behind the dumpster, like he hadn't been caught, like he'd been waiting. Danny burst in through the side door, out of breath, cheeks flushed, fists clenched. He was crouched behind the bins. He was just waiting, Rachel. We turned off every light except one dim bulb over the back prep area. The silence felt thicker than air. I grabbed my phone and called 911. "There's a man outside our restaurant," I whispered. "He hasn't tried to break in, but he's been watching us, disappearing, reappearing. It's not right." The dispatcher stayed calm. She said an officer was already nearby, would be there in less than 10 minutes. 10 minutes. I stood near the kitchen, peeking through the small rectangular window in the side door. At first, nothing. Then, his face appeared in the window, pressed against the glass, and he smiled. It wasn't a grin. It was slow, crooked, and twisted, like someone who knows a secret, someone who thinks he's already been inside. I turned away, heart hammering. Danny gripped the handle of a mop like it was a weapon. We crouched in the break room, whispering. We didn't speak of the smile. We didn't need to. We felt it. When the cops arrived just after 2 a.m., the man was gone. They searched the lot, the alley, even walked through the nearby bushes near the edge of the property. Nothing. Could have been a drifter, one officer said. Could be someone looking to scare people, but we'll keep an eye on the lot for the rest of the night. I nodded, but I knew better. That man wasn't trying to scare us. He was testing us, seeing how far he could go, how close he could get. I started carrying pepper spray after that. I parked closer to the doors. I never took the trash out alone again. And sometimes when I closed my eyes, I saw his face again, pressed against the glass. That smile. I kept wondering, what if Danny hadn't seen him? What if I had taken out the trash instead? Would I have heard footsteps before he stepped out? Or would I have seen him only when it was too late? It's easy to dismiss small red flags, a strange look, a lingering presence. But instincts exist for a reason. Trust them, because sometimes the people who don't speak, the ones who linger just outside the edge of normal, they're the ones you have to remember. And never forget to lock the door. There's a strange clarity that comes with childhood memories. Not the big moments people assume shape you, but the quiet ones, the slow afternoons, the ordinary routines that suddenly go sideways and leave you holding your breath, even decades later. The summer of 1999 had a stillness to it. I was 9. My little sister Maddie was 7, and my cousin Jane had just turned 14. Jane had always been a little older than her age, sharp, responsible, but with this quiet, rebellious streak. She watched after us when our parents were busy, which that summer meant cleaning out my aunt's overstuffed garage in Burbank. That Sunday afternoon, the sun was out in full force, bleaching the sidewalks and stretching long shadows across every parked car. Jane, probably tired of Maddie asking questions and me bouncing a tennis ball against the fence, said we should walk to Burger King. It was only a few blocks away, nestled between a dry cleaner's and an empty dentist office, the kind of strip everyone forgets exists until they need a drive-through soda or a $1 cone. Jane promised ice cream if we behaved. We left our parents elbow-deep in cardboard boxes and stepped out into the hot breeze. I remember the way her ponytail bounced when she walked ahead of us, that quiet sense of authority she had over the two of us. I remember the sound of cicadas and the smell of fresh asphalt. The Burger King itself was nothing special. Cold air hit us the moment we stepped inside, overcompensating for the heat outside. The tiles were scuffed, the red booths faded to a dull maroon, and the soda fountain was half out of syrup. We found a window booth and spread out, Jane with a plastic cup full of Sprite, me with fries, and Maddie happily kicking her sneakers against the seat. After we ate, Jane let us wander to the back corner play area. It wasn't much. Just a plastic jungle gym that probably hadn't passed inspection in years and a few blinking broken arcade machines. But it was a break from boredom. Maddie crawled into the plastic tunnel. I sat on the edge of the rubber floor, watching her try to spin a sticky steering wheel. That's when the woman came in. She didn't look like anyone else inside. No kids, no food, no motion toward the counter. She stood by the front entrance, holding a large black leather purse like it was a trophy. Her sunglasses were round and oversized, covering most of her face even though we were indoors. Her dress looked too formal, stiff fabric with a floral pattern that reminded me of something I'd seen at a funeral. She wasn't smiling. Not yet. She wasn't there for food. She was there for something else. And she saw us. At 9, you don't fully understand threat, but you feel it, the way animals sense a coming storm. I didn't know what to name the feeling, only that it gripped the back of my neck and made me wish I were sitting closer to Jane. The woman didn't blink, didn't glance at the menu. She took 2 steps into the dining area and paused near the condiment station. Everyone else inside was too busy to notice. A man eating alone near the bathrooms, a teen couple giggling over milkshakes. But I saw her, her gaze locked onto me. She smiled then, not a big happy smile, but a faint, polite curve of the lips. Her heels clicked once as she approached, stopping right at the edge of the play fence. She crouched down, her purse still clutched tight. "That one's the best, huh?" she said, nodding toward Maddie inside the tunnel. "The swirl cone? I used to love that when I was your age." Her voice was sweet, but it sounded practiced, like someone trying out a script. I didn't answer. I just looked at her face, trying to find her eyes behind those sunglasses. She gave a little laugh. Silly me, I left my change in the car. "You want to come help me get it real quick?" I parked just over there. I looked across the restaurant toward our booth. Jane had her legs curled up, flipping through a teen magazine. Maddie was giggling behind me, oblivious. "We'll be back before anyone even notices," the woman said, like she was offering a shortcut to something good. My throat felt tight. "No thanks," I said, and backed up a step. Her smile didn't falter. If anything, it grew colder. "You don't have to tell her," she whispered. "Just a second. You can pick your own cone." My legs locked in place. I didn't move. My voice was gone. Then Jane's voice rang out, sharp and loud from across the dining room. "Eli, come here, now." The woman didn't flinch. She didn't move. But I did. I ran. Jane met me halfway, grabbing my hand. She looked the woman dead in the face as we passed, her jaw clenched. "Don't look back," she whispered. I didn't. The sunlight outside stung my eyes as we burst through the glass doors. Jane pulled Maddie along with her free hand, not bothering to explain anything yet. We hurried to the edge of the parking lot and crouched behind a row of dusty bushes near the sidewalk. Inside, the woman didn't move, but she stood by the window booth now, watching, arms folded, still smiling. Jane's hand gripped mine too tight, but I didn't say anything. Maddie was confused and annoyed, whining that she wanted to go back in for her toy. Jane told her to hush. 5 minutes passed before Jane stood up. "We're walking home the long way," she said. But before we could move, a silver-gray car eased out of the parking lot. Old Toyota Camry, dent on the back bumper. It turned onto Alameda slowly and didn't drive off. It followed us. We kept walking, turned once, then twice. Every time we crossed a street, the car reappeared. Not speeding, just drifting a little too close. Like it was thinking. Jane finally flagged down a woman on a bike and asked her if we could borrow her phone to call our aunt. 10 minutes later, our aunt pulled up in her minivan, and we climbed in fast. Jane didn't say much, just that a strange woman had spoken to us, and it didn't feel right. But as we pulled away, Jane turned back. "That car's behind us again," she said. Our aunt didn't believe it at first. She thought it was coincidence. "It's probably just someone taking the same route," she said, keeping one hand on the wheel and the other adjusting the volume knob on the radio. But Jane wasn't buying it. "Turn right here," she told her. Then another right, then left. The Camry was still there. "Pull into the park," Jane said, her voice flat. "McCambridge, now." We rolled into the lot by the playground and parked near a picnic table. Jane told us to stay seated while she kept her eyes on the road. Sure enough, the Camry didn't park. It pulled to a side street near the park entrance and stopped. The driver never got out, didn't back up, didn't speed away, just sat there, watching. I sat next to Maddie and tried to act normal while she picked at grass blades, asking why we weren't going home yet. Jane didn't stop watching the car. After 10 minutes, the Camry finally moved. It didn't rush off, it just eased away, turning slowly like someone who wasn't done yet. We waited another 15 minutes before driving home. That night, Jane told our aunt everything. She finally took it seriously. A report was filed. We gave a description. I don't know what the police did with it. All I knew was that the next time we passed that Burger King, I wouldn't even look at it. You grow up thinking the world is one way, safe, predictable. And then something cracks. It wasn't loud. The woman didn't grab me or shout. She didn't chase us. She smiled. That was the part that stayed with me. The quietness of it. The way she never raised her voice, never looked out of control. She was calm, gentle, and completely wrong. I still remember her perfume. Sickly sweet. The kind that clings to your throat. I remember the way the Burger King lights reflected off the tile and made everything look too bright. Like a spotlight on something no one else saw. Jane saved me. That's what I understand now. It wasn't heroic or loud. She didn't fight anyone. She paid attention. She followed a feeling. She yelled at the right time. Sometimes danger doesn't wear a mask. It doesn't carry a weapon or scream in the night. Sometimes it just wears sunglasses and asks if you want a cone. Real danger rarely looks the way we expect. It doesn't always feel scary at first. Sometimes it smiles. Sometimes it talks sweet. But if something feels off, trust your instincts, even if you're just a kid. Especially then, because it's better to be wrong and safe than right and missing. People don't think much about closing shifts at fast food places. They think the worst part is cleaning grease traps or mopping sticky floors. Truth is, those are the easy parts. What really gets you is the way the place feels when the customers are gone, and you're left with nothing but the hum of the soda machine, the smell of fryer oil clinging to your clothes, and the awareness that the rest of the world has gone quiet. I've been working at the Burger King on County Road 4187 in Maplewood, Ohio, for 2 years now. We're wedged between a used car lot and a stretch of woods so dense it swallows the sunset an hour early. Day shifts have their chaos, school kids piling in after class, drive-through lines stretching around the building, but night shifts, they're a different animal. You notice every flicker of the lights, every strange creak in the walls. That Friday night in late September had been brutal from the start. The fryer in Station 2 broke down at 6:03 p.m., right in the middle of the dinner rush. The register printer jammed twice, smearing ink on my hands that wouldn't come off no matter how hard I scrubbed. And around 8:40, A guy in the drive-thru went ballistic because we'd run out of onion rings. He slammed his car door so hard the window shook, shouted something about terrible service, and peeled out like he'd been waiting all week to do it. My manager, Tina, was on edge too. She's a tough woman in her late 40s with a smoker's cough and a way of hovering over you that makes you feel like every move you make is being graded. She'd been pacing the kitchen all night, muttering about labor hours and corporate nonsense that I've learned to tune out. By 10:55 p.m., the last customer was gone. It was just me, Tina, and Ben, a new hire who moved like he was underwater and barely spoke unless you cornered him. Tina sent him to mop while she started counting the till. I grabbed the last bag of trash and headed out back. The first thing I noticed was how dark it was. The floodlight above the dumpster had burned out last week and no one had bothered to replace it. The only light came from the thin spill of yellow through the open back door. The air was heavy, still warm for September, and the silence was so thick I could hear my own breathing. That's when I heard the rustle. Not quick, like a raccoon or possum. Slow, deliberate. I froze, trash bag in hand, eyes straining toward the tree line. And that's when I saw it. A faint outline of a person standing between two tall pines, perfectly still, watching. I told myself it could be anything. A trick of the light, maybe someone cutting through the woods. But when I walked back inside, I kept glancing toward the door. "Tina," I said, "I think someone's out there." "In the woods? Probably a deer," she said without looking up from the register. I didn't argue, but something about the way that figure hadn't moved made my stomach feel heavy. By midnight, we were ready to lock up. Tina's car was parked right out front under the glow of the big Burger King sign. Ben left without a word, pulling out of the lot like he couldn't get away fast enough. My car was in the side lot, the one closest to the woods. I tossed my bag into the passenger seat, slid the key into the ignition, and turned it. Click. Nothing. Tried again. Click, click. The engine didn't even try to turn over. I leaned back, let out a slow breath. "Great," I muttered. My phone was at 3% battery. I texted Tina. "Car won't start, still here, might need a jump." No reply. I glanced up and my heart sank. The figure wasn't in the woods anymore. He was in the lot about halfway between the tree line and my car. Tall, dark clothes, shoulders slightly hunched forward, moving slow. I locked the doors and grabbed my phone again, 1% battery now, and hit Tina's number. It rang once before the screen went black. The man stopped about 30 feet away, standing under the dim glow of the lot's one working streetlight. He didn't move. His head tilted slightly, like he was studying me. I turned the key again. The engine coughed, sputtered for a second, then died. My hands were slick with sweat now, my pulse thudding in my ears. That's when he started walking again. Not fast, just that same deliberate pace. I didn't think, I just moved. I shoved the door open, bolted toward the front of the building, and fumbled with my keys. By some miracle, Tina hadn't locked the deadbolt yet. I yanked the door open, setting off the alarm, and stumbled inside. The alarm blared, sharp and deafening in the empty restaurant. Through the glass, I saw him standing by my car now. He put one hand on the roof, leaning slightly as if peering inside. Then, slowly, he turned his head toward me. He didn't flinch at the alarm. He didn't run. After a few seconds, he turned and walked back toward the woods, swallowed up by the dark. I stood there for a long time, my chest heaving, before I called 911 from the store phone. The police showed up about 15 minutes later, 2 officers in a cruiser. They searched the lot, then the woods, found nothing. One of them, a young guy with tired eyes, told me there had been a report earlier that week about someone trying to pry open the back door of the restaurant after hours. No one had been caught. Tina came back, grumbling about the alarm going off, but when she saw my face, she didn't say much. She jumped my car and followed me halfway home. That night I lay in bed, every shadow in my apartment looking like a man standing perfectly still. Months later, I'm still here, still closing some nights. But I never park in the side lot anymore. I never take the trash out without glancing at the tree line. And when I do glance, I'm always bracing myself for the chance that he's still there. Because I can't shake the feeling that he wasn't just passing through, that he was looking for a way in. Trust your instincts when something feels wrong. Sometimes fear isn't paranoia. It's your mind recognizing danger before your eyes do. People think the scariest part of working fast food is the rush hour. The lines that stretch to the door, the fryer alarms blaring, the soda machine sputtering out mid-order. It can get chaotic, sure, but chaos is predictable. You know it's coming, you know it will end, and you know the worst you'll leave with is smelling like French fries. The real danger isn't when the place is full, it's when it's empty. When I first moved to Fairview, Kansas, I wasn't looking for anything glamorous. I'd just come off a breakup that gutted me more than I wanted to admit. I needed a place where I could start over, keep my head down, and pay the bills without too much social obligation. That's how I ended up at the Burger King off Highway 17. It wasn't much, a squat brick building with a flickering sign and a parking lot big enough for maybe 20 cars. I'd work evenings, sometimes closing, alongside a rotating crew of teenagers and burned-out adults who were just biding their time until something better came along. My boss, Phil, was a 50-something man with the weary patience of someone who'd been yelled at by strangers for decades. The thing about Highway 17 was that it didn't see much traffic after dark, except for long-haul truckers or the occasional drifter passing through town. Most customers were fine, tired, hungry, polite in that half-present way people are after a long day. And then there was the night the door chimed at 5:12 p.m. I remember it clearly, because I was leaning against the counter, reorganizing receipt paper for the third time just to stay busy. The air smelled faintly of fryer grease and bleach from the pre-closing wipe-down. He walked in slow, like each step was an afterthought. Tall, broad-shouldered, his windbreaker zipped all the way to his neck even though it was a warm October day. His hair was slicked back, not stylish, just flattened, like it hadn't moved in hours. But it was his eyes that caught me. They didn't sweep the room naturally. They snapped from one point to another, quick, deliberate, like he was taking an inventory of the place. Register, exit, kitchen door, back hallway. He came straight to my register. No pause at the menu, no glancing at the specials. 4 Whoppers, 3 large fries, 20-piece nuggets, 2 large Cokes, apple pie. His voice was soft but rough-edged, like gravel sliding over concrete. I rang it up, the register beeping louder than usual in the quiet. He handed me a stack of crumpled bills, faintly damp, with a chemical tang I couldn't place at first. Gasoline. "Gonna need a couple trays for this," he said when I handed him the receipt. When the food was ready, I expected him to take it to a booth and start eating like everyone else. But instead he set up a small tripod, angled his phone toward himself, and began devouring the food like a man who hadn't eaten in days. The bites were too big, too fast, grease running down his chin as he occasionally glanced at the camera. I'd seen odd customers before, the guy who tried to pay in half-dollar coins, the woman who asked for spaghetti. But this felt different. This wasn't a man here to eat. This was a man here to be seen. That night I didn't think much more about him, but it wouldn't be long before he stopped being just another odd customer. The second time he came in was a week later. I remember because it had been a slow Monday, the kind of night where you keep checking the clock and swear it's broken. The dining room was empty except for one older couple splitting a milkshake. The door chimed, and there he was. Same windbreaker zipped up to his throat, same slow pace, same jerky glance around the room before locking eyes with me. "You're new," he said as I started ringing him up. I gave him a quick nod. "Couple weeks. You got a name?" I hesitated. Phil always told us to keep things friendly with customers, but something about him made me want to stay a stranger. "Yeah," I said finally. "Claire." He said it once, slow. "Claire, nice name." This time he ordered even more food. 5 Whoppers, 3 orders of nuggets, 2 pies, extra large fries, And again, he set up his tripod, same booth, same greasy performance for the camera. The thing that made my skin crawl was how often he looked my way. Not the kind of look you give someone to get their attention, more like the kind where you're studying them without permission. I busied myself wiping tables, refilling napkin dispensers, doing anything that kept me out of his direct line of sight. The third visit was when the questions started. You work nights? Closing shifts? Where's your car parked? You live close? I answered vaguely, trying not to encourage him, but his smile told me he wasn't really listening to my words. He was filing away the tone, the pauses, the little details. After he left, I told Phil, "That guy gives me the creeps." Phil didn't even look up from counting the till. Welcome to fast food. Some folks are just like that. As long as he pays, it's fine. I wanted to believe that, but deep down, I knew I wouldn't forget the way he'd said my name. It was a rainy Tuesday when things escalated. The sky had been dark since morning, and by evening the parking lot was slick and empty except for 2 cars. He came in at 6:45, ordered like usual, enough food to feed a family. As I handed him a Coke, the lid popped off and splashed onto his windbreaker. "Damn it," he hissed, stepping back. "I'm sorry, let me get you." I reached for napkins, but he snatched them out of my hand hard enough to sting. Phil came over. "What's the problem here?" The man didn't raise his voice. That made it worse. "She's careless. People like that shouldn't work with customers." Phil's jaw tightened. "If you're going to insult my staff, you can take your food to go." The man stared at him for a long, uncomfortable moment before stacking his trays and walking out into the rain. No yelling, no slamming the door, just that quiet, cold exit that made the air feel heavier. I thought maybe that was the end of it. It wasn't. 2 nights later, Phil told us he'd banned the guy, said he'd made a scene in the parking lot the night before, scaring off customers. I felt relief for the first time in weeks. Then the call came. It was 8:30 p.m. and I was restocking ketchup packets when the store phone rang. Phil answered, frowned, then handed it to me. "It's for you. Says he's with the police." The man on the line introduced himself as Officer Grant. "Claire, we have a report of a theft earlier today. We need to search your belongings before you leave tonight." My stomach dropped. "A theft? Of what?" "Personal property of a customer. You were the last person to handle it." Phil overheard enough to stiffen. "We'll cooperate," he told the voice. Phil walked me into the back office along with another shift leader. My backpack sat on the desk. I opened it, turned my pockets inside out. Nothing. That's when the store phone rang again. Phil answered, his face drained of color. "It was a prank," he said slowly. "The real police say no one called about a theft. And the voice? They don't know any Officer Grant." I didn't need him to say it, I knew who it was. The hungry man. I finished the shift in a fog. Every time the door chimed, my chest tightened. I kept glancing at the parking lot, half expecting to see the glow of his phone recording me through the rain. At closing, Phil insisted on walking me to my car. The lot was empty, but I still unlocked my door fast, locked it before starting the engine. The rear-view mirror was useless. Every shadow looked like him. That night, I left the TV on just for the noise. Every time my phone buzzed, I flinched. The next morning, I called Phil. My voice was steadier than I expected. "I'm not coming back." "You sure?" he asked gently. "Yeah. I don't feel safe." He didn't argue. "I'll put you down as resigning effective immediately." Weeks have passed. I still check over my shoulder in grocery store aisles. Still keep my curtains closed. Still hesitate before answering an unknown number. I've had bad customers before. Angry ones, drunk ones. But this was different. Some people don't just want to scare you. They want to own your fear. And I realized something. Jobs are replaceable. Your safety isn't. No paycheck is worth living in fear. If something or someone makes you feel unsafe, Walk away before they take more than just your peace of mind.